It says we're live. I can't believe it's that fast. StreamYard's faster than just going through OBS. Anyway, I always ramble in the beginning thinking that it's not really live when it is.
It wasn't live for me the other day. You know, every time it's worked fine, and then when I did the interview with Leslie Kean, it wasn't live.
But you got it recorded.
Yeah, I recorded it, but it didn't stream. So
I'm here with Chris.
Watch it. Yeah.
By the way, for those who don't know, I can't think you don't possibly know who Chris Lehto is and Alexei Novitzky. That's who I'm with, and I'm excited. I will say that I know for those who came here for Jane, I'm sorry she was under the weather, and I found out about maybe 35, 40 minutes ago, and Chris and Alexei were gracious enough to fill in because you don't want to hear me talk about weird stuff for an hour.
I miss talking to you guys, man. I've just been super busy working on all these different projects, so it finally reached an overtasked level. You know, I'm definitely can't take on any new things or projects.
Well, darn, I was going to ask you about that thing. No, I'm just kidding.
We should do. What about the telescope, man? Except for an interdimensional telescope. I mean, that has to move up the priority list.
Well, that's where what I realize is you get everything going, and then you need to let go. Like, let the guy you hire run it after that point. So you get it going, and then you just let it go. So then you just keep doing more and more and more and more, and other people kind of fill in what you've created.
I feel you though, Chris, because I have the same problem in construction in my design company. I have never been able to let go. In 40 years, I've been in this business, and that's why I can only build a couple of custom houses a year, sometimes only one, because I'm not very good at delegation. Because I have to be there. Like, no, I want to help make the decision. You know, because I don't know, you get to feel where like it's your project, you become attached to it. It's hard. It's difficult to delegate, especially in this day and age when really talent is really, stretched thin, I think.
Yeah, I mean, luckily the guy is awesome. So Colin Stone, he moved here over a year ago, and so we met him. He's friends with his wife.
For people who don't know what we're talking about, you're talking about. Well, first I wanted you to talk a little bit about your Leslie Kean interview, and then a little bit about the NFTs.
Yeah,
and then,
it was amazing. Yeah, for sure. Leslie Kean, I was lucky enough to interview her last Friday, and originally I wasn't sure it was going to happen, but yeah, she was gracious enough to come on, and so it was amazing, and she's so inspiring. Leslie Kean, I really didn't know all the stuff she did, obviously, because she was just behind the scenes for 17 years. She published her first article in 2000 with the Cometa report, because it was translated into English. She got came from France, all the big time generals, military leaders made this big report, and they came up with the extraterrestrial hypothesis as a likely possibility. And so she got the first English translation in 2000 and thought it was this giant story, and so she approached all the editors she knew from previous. She was writing about Burma, and none of them would touch it. She said she didn't even say the word UFOs, but they just wouldn't even touch it, except for one. There was one editor at the Boston Globe that she really respected Leslie, and so she finally went for it. But she said it was still really hard. Like at one point, she said, "Let's just cancel it. Let's forget it." And so it just ran. So it was amazing, man. So she published that in 2000, and then in 2017, now they called her because she'd been working behind the scenes. That kind of got her into the UFO game. Behind the scenes for 17 years, and Lou Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, Hal Puthoff, those guys called her in in 2017, the day Lou resigned. So she talks about that. She said he was just super nervous, and she saw all the documents. She had been advocating for this office to be created to look at UFOs, and it was all the documentation. They were all going on the record, so it's very exciting. But we talk about a bunch of other things about the phenomenon and her take on it. And she's recently written a book, Surviving Death, that goes into paranormal stuff. And they used that. Netflix took that and ran with it for a 6-part series. And so your names came up in that interview a couple times. And so I thought those would be kind of interesting segues, because it came up about how the brains can be affected. We were talking about human effects relations to Havana syndrome. I asked her, could it be Havana syndrome or something related? And she
Right.
said, yeah, there's some similarities with the injury. She said she doesn't know how much detail she can go in, but she's definitely on the inside. She even mentioned that 23-minute video that Lou talked about. Said it's multiple craft, probably unequivocal. So that's how we were talking about is relation to your story, Tony, about the orb, and I didn't know all the details around it, but just that had it affected you, and you weren't scared. I think is what I remember, that you said you weren't. There was no fear, which terrified you later.
In that moment, yeah. In the moment, there's not, but after, it's like when the shock is over, it hits you. It's like an injury. You get shot. And you're like, oh, I got a bullet in my. And then later the pain sets in. So
Yeah.
The effects of it are long lasting. I mean, I still, like I said in previous, meetings we've had or hangouts, whatever we're calling these things. The dream, it's not PTSD. I don't want to compare myself to what a soldier's been through, because I think they've been through a lot more, obviously. But it's kind of like that.
I think that's a misnomer, because PTSD is a reaction that your body, I think, physically has. You can't control it. It can come from anything. My buddy got PTSD. He from killing people. Actually, he every night, he said when it happened, he didn't feel anything. There was two guys standing there, and he dropped a bomb at their feet, and he's watching it in the targeting pod, the same targeting pod that you guys see, on the gimbal videos, basically exact same thing, but on the ground. So he guides a bomb in, whatever. These guys are gone, obviously. He thought mission accomplished. We got the bad guys, all this stuff, but then every night for the next 2 years, he would dream about that hitting just repeatedly, on like loop.
Right.
And so he said at the time he didn't really think anything of it, but after a year and a half, he said it just makes you depressed and affects you. So it's not like something he chose, not like something that even happened necessarily, wasn't like an impact to him physically. He hurt someone else. So it's just interesting. When you say that anyone can get PTSD, I think it's just a physical effect that your body has. My limited non-expert opinion.
So I just meant I have, I didn't want to take away from, because I have so many friends that have been in the military, very close. My brother, I have my close friends, I don't want to take away from, I don't want to come and claim that, but it does change you to the extent that since I was 12 years old, I've had these weird dreams, that I have two types of dreams. I have what I call events and then regular dreams, and they're so distinctly different. I can only think that something is different, like physically in the brain about them. So anyway, I didn't want to get off of my thing. I was curious. Basically, Kean's always fascinated me, and the way I found out about Lou Elizondo was because I was researching her and trying to get her to interview. I thought she was probably, more knowledgeable and had that experience. And of course, she works for the New York Times, right? So
yeah, it was very.
I've always thought she was fascinating.
You got me thinking a lot about Havana syndrome just now over the last couple of minutes, and the relationship to the UFOs, and a sort of PTSD that could potentially come from it. What is Havana syndrome to your understanding? Could you explain that? And what did she say? How did it relate to the UFO?
Honestly, I haven't researched it that much for Havana syndrome. I've just read it, a little bit in the news, and what she said is that the effects that they're seeing from Havana syndrome, at least the physical effects, the results, seem to mirror some of the same symptoms that they're seing from UAP effects.
I thought Havana syndrome was suspected to be some sort of man-made, weaponized, weaponization of microwaves or sound waves, or right. I didn't realize. I didn't realize that was being mixed in with the whole ET.
Recently, it's been tied in more and more, especially to people that have had encounters, like you're saying, kind of like a Havana syndrome effect. I've just been thinking a lot about it, and when it comes to timelines and the whole quantum state, and if they're really coming to affect our now moment, so they have a more stable future. the past and the future are all tied in together. So it could really disorient the brain if they're messing with like a flow of reality. That's all. I just wanted to throw that in there. So it could be a different type of PTSD, one that comes from more of an altering of your direction.
The Havana syndrome thing seems to be coming from some sort of weapon, though. I don't know why ET or alien, whatever we're calling these beings, why would they want to cause physical? Because these are physical. There's
Well,
physical
that's like a
damage.
directed radiation weapon. Right? You're talking about directed radiation weapons, altering people's brains.
I'm not sure if it's radiation or I was thinking it was some form of either high, I thought it was actually infrasound, not infrasound, but some sort of, I don't know. We need to look it up.
Yeah, I don't. All I knew is there's weird effects happening to hundreds of government overseas, personnel. I don't know. I thought it was State Department, but I'm not really sure. And then I didn't think much about it until the Gary Nolan interview with Jesse Michaels or Mitchells. He's kind of a new YouTuber, made that awesome video with Gary Nolan. He's the Stanford physicist. He's working on the metamaterials. So basically, in that interview, Gary Nolan says that these people, these government officials approached him and showed him hundreds of cases where they had these brain kind of, I don't know how to read an MRI or whatever, but basically it was like in the stem of the brain, the part that somehow guides perception or some relation to that. Deep thinking, like chess moves, right? When you make a chess move and it's like super deep, like no one expected it because like 20 moves down or something.
Right.
When that lights up, that's the part of the brain that has been affected, like in some negative way. And he said that was similar to
long-term, like a long-term planning type of thing. I see what you're saying.
I was just, I mean, if they exist and they're just all powerful, then they could do, they could actually. I don't connect malfeasance, that type of malfeasance with them. I would connect that with just some sort of spying or, maybe Russian or Chinese weapon, because they have weapons that can direct sound at, right to basically blow your eardrums out. Yeah, microwaves, whatever. I associate that with some sort of weapon that from a far, an earthly, force.
Yeah, but what kind of weapon, right? Because if you're using a radiation weapon, you're expecting like the face to get burned or something, like not the middle of your brain. If you look where it is, I think, I don't know, again, I'm not like a brain surgeon or something, but I would expect like skin burns, or intense heat. You hear about some of the UFO cases where they're sunburned. Or
that's higher energy stuff, though, right? So, I mean, if you were to go towards the other spectrum, like radio waves and stuff like that, you get those longer waves that don't really carry burning energy, but more disorientating energy.
Let me. So I got it here. I found it, and then I covered it up. I'm sorry about that.
Well, and if you look at the people like Havana, this was our related to diplomats, right?
Yeah.
So it seemed to be political. It seemed to be a political strike, or a military type thing. Someone saying, "Hey, look, we can do this if we need to." You know what I mean? It didn't seem like something. The motive behind it didn't seem to be something that ETs would care about.
No, right. But there seems to be a side effect, right? Is what you're saying,
yeah,
Chris?
that's the point. The point is, when I asked Leslie, she said it's funny you would say that because the symptoms appear to be the same. So let me share my screen here, and I have
the same as what? Maybe I'm missing something.
Havana syndrome. These symptoms of these people who are.
We lost him.
He'll be back.
I don't want to.
He's in Portugal. He'll be back.
I think what he's trying to say is, or the point that he's getting across is that basically people who have a lot of UAP or UFO experiences suffer similar symptoms as to those who have had Havana syndrome from those directed energy attacks that you were mentioning.
Okay. And
so
I don't know. I'm trying to understand it,
Yeah.
I hope he comes back.
Yeah, me too. That's funny.
I didn't have because I was going to let Jane carry the show. But as far as that guy disappeared, so shocking. That's in the comments. He only temporarily disappeared, hopefully, but I was hoping that Chris was going to give us an NFT update too on what he's been working on. Are you at any point willing to talk about some of the things you talked to me about? I know you're going. Aren't you? Are you going on the road, or are you willing to talk about that kind of stuff, or is that just not?
Well, I mean, I don't really know if that really relates so much with what's going on here.
Well, my thing's never been about any kind of, I don't know. I think at some point we're talking about people and how they live. It's just like me sharing my situation where I'm building this tiny shack and I got to move there, and
Right.
it's all part of the life story, right? I mean, if this thing drags out for years, which I think it will, because the fancy new government office isn't going to be releasing any information anytime soon, we kind of settle in and kind of understand the human side of this stuff. I think our stories are part of that whole thing.
Well, I didn't want to get ahead of us, but I felt like where we were kind of headed was, we were talking about Leslie Kean a little bit, and she seemed to be an investigator of like seances, so people that could actually create their own paranormal experiences, as well as UAP and stuff, right? And so it's the tying of the two together. And so basically,
it would help if I would add it back.
I'm getting a new computer, so
oh, it's not
fine
that
all day.
It's
and as soon as I have a live stream, it cuts out, man.
I thought they chopped the undersea cable from Portugal to Tennessee there for a second.
Did you get? So I found the Havana syndrome. It's a set of medical symptoms with unknown causes, experienced mostly abroad by U.S. government officials and military personnel. The symptoms range in severity from pain and ringing in the ears to cognitive difficulties, and were first reported in 2016 by U.S. and Canadian embassy staff in Havana, Cuba. So,
yeah, I don't know. I have a feeling the Chinese have more to do with this than the reptilians.
well, the thing about that, I mean, if it is an energy weapon, right, and it's radiation, you can do that from space. You can do it from a satellite pretty easy. So you don't even need to have people on foot.
That's true.
Cell phone towers can do it. 5G towers can even pull it off.
it feels to me more like a side effect, not even like a weapon. Like they were trying something else and it screwed up, or
right.
Or they were, it happened a lot too, where I know a lot of pilot wives who died of cancer, just some sort of weird cancer. Just seems like, and pilots, especially F-15 pilots, they have much bigger radar. They get a lot of incidents of cancer.
I wonder how that would transfer. I wonder how that relates to their wives, though. I wonder
where they lived. I don't know. Like the F-15 makes sense. Those pilots, because they're up higher, there's less protection from the sun. So you're getting a lot of just general radiation. And then you got that giant radar. So you can get a bunch of radiation. So, I mean, that makes sense. Like testicular cancer is very high. We have to, I think all fighter pilots normally get checked for prostate cancer starting when you're 50, and pilots, they recommend 40. So it felt kind of like something like that initially. Maybe there's some weird other side effect going on from radiation or some poisoning.
The F-15s are the strike. They're capable of striking or ground targets, or they're not air to air. What are they? Are they?
There's two. Yeah, everything's at least multi-role. The F-15C model is the single seat. It's smaller. It's still a giant fighter, but that's air to air. Is air to air, and the F-22 replaced that. And the Strike Eagle, that's the big heavy bomber. It's two people. It's giant airplane.
Alexei, you were talking about something while Chris was.
Yeah, well, it was kind of tying into Leslie Kean again, and just curious, what on your thoughts of what she was kind of getting at? Do you think that the mysticism aspect, the seances, making hands come out of ectoplasm, so that's all of an inward type thing, meaning coming from the experiencer, is that related to the UAP also coming from the experiencer? as in it's all coming from within almost.
That's-
Is that something you could say?
She said it's there's a non-physical aspect to the phenomenon. She thinks that is definitely related.
Right.
She doesn't think it's just physical objects. It's not just about that. She thinks it's much more complicated. And she brought up Communion, Whitley Strieber. He wrote the book Communion, where basically what he was saying is when people were dying, they would see actually UAPs. They would see UAPs. And also when people saw UAPs, they saw deceased people.
Interesting.
That's what she said. So she thinks there's a definite link, and that's what she's excited to try and find those possibilities of any link.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, basically, I don't know if I know you've seen the first book I wrote called like The Infinite Pool of Experience and Awareness, but since then I've kind of written a second one called The Physics of Love. And at the end of it, it basically shows the layering of all the different conscious types and how we wouldn't even be able to exist because if the outer realms didn't harmonize first, right? So the outer realms of creation need to harmonize before it can even drift inward. So basically what I'm getting at is that the outer realms are harmonized and now it comes inward towards our realm, right? The universe, and it's less harmonious. And so as you drift inward, the realms become less harmonious and become fractals of the individuals. And so it's almost like the inner realm is a creation of human stillness or consciousness stillness. And so whatever is happening in our now determines what future exists in the quantum state. Because there's literally an intelligence to stillness, because the more still and laminar all the flows are, the quicker consciousness can evolve at those higher dimensions. There's those time dilations associated with them. So basically, like the more still you are, the more consciousness can evolve in your local spheres of reality. And so basically every individual could be creating their own UFO phenomenon, essentially.
I wonder if it's that. I wonder if it's that spiritual, or listen to me, I'm a spiritual guy asking this question, or if it's just that we don't understand how it can be physical. In other words, are we just talking about quantum level stuff instead of, our Zoom level?
I guess when she says not, or when not physical, I think of something outside of this plane. Like you've talked before, Tony, like you argue that there is definitely a physical plane, physical realm. So that would imply that there's other realms outside of that. It's like D&D or something, but did it more complicated. I don't know.
Well, I do think, it's we were talking about this in one of our first Hangouts, where we were talking about, Zoom levels and fractals, and, what if it's just something that we don't understand? It's like Galileo himself, right? He was talking about things people thought were crazy, or they didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And now it just seems like second nature. At some point this will become second nature to us.
I mean, think how crazy it must have been, to say, hey, there's these giant, enormous planets out there and I can see them,
And then you say gravity is really not that strong of a force, but it can hold planets
yeah, exactly,
in orbit. And then Einstein comes along and says, well, doesn't have to be that strong because it warps space-time around the, I mean, that's what I mean. Every time somebody like Galileo or Einstein came along, it changed our understanding. And I don't know. I guess what I'm hoping is that on a spiritual level, that these beings are not the ultimate, that there's still a level above them, and that's God, and they are under God. That's kind of what I really don't want them to be our creators. That's just a human thing,
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't gone back to my theory that much lately, but everything I've seen, it seems to make sense, or at least fit the pattern, the regression line. And in that case, they wouldn't be our creators at all. They'd be other fellow cells of a larger organism, like if anything, they may be here just to either help the cell or not. It depends what environment you're in. If it's like amoebas out there just getting eaten, that would be very bad for us, right? Because if you have some other very primitive organism show up and just eat the planet, that would be the end, right? I mean, it could be that sort of environment that we actually live in. We just don't know it.
We'd get pooped out the other end.
But I think that's what, if we can prove UAPs, I think that goes against that, because that either we're being gobbled up right now and we just don't realize it, or we're part of a much larger system, much larger organism.
Tony, could I do a screen share real quick?
Yeah.
All right. Let me see.
While you're bringing that up, Alexei, I will say that Leslie did bring that up. She said it's very interesting because you can't choose to see a UAP, she was saying. Essentially, they have them very rare. But she said you can choose to go and do these mediums. You can choose to go and meditate, to search for whatever you're talking about.
Well, I don't know.
State or something.
I want to talk a little bit about that after this, because
can you see this on the screen?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to show you guys real quick. So basically, we're in this orbit, right? We've talked about this thing before, this drawing, and then we've talked about the layers. So as you go inward, it gets more dense. Okay, so in order for our layer of reality to even exist to begin with, it must be something like this, where it's more harmonious on the outside and then comes to our creation. And so this is where our creation is at right now, on this side, and so all the beings from the denser harmonics are literally a creation of our stillness. And so like they can't evolve further unless we all harmonize. That's like a visual way of seeing what I'm trying to talk about.
What do you mean when you say harmonize?
You have to think of like the laminar versus the turbulent regions of reality when it comes to the flows that exist within time. And so for a denser experience to exist, we need to have like a laminar flow about all of humanity, because we all create our own wants, don't wants, assumptions, and expectations, right? And we have each individual has a unique mind, body, spirit diagram, which creates spirals within the fluid of the quantum manifestations. And so literally like the planets and the moons and the sun are all very harmonious. But then when it comes to our creations as humanity, we're literally all over the place with like trying to like fulfill infrastructures essentially. And so so we have a really weird quantum state that we're adding to the natural creation. So literally like we're distorting a natural creation in a way. And so literally our stillness creates the habitats for the denser harmonics of experience is what I'm getting at. And so by harmonizing, I mean, everyone think the same almost. Well, not think the same, but everyone be understanding of everyone's thoughts. Let thoughts flow, right? That's more what I'm getting at.
I think it's awesome. I don't know. How do you test this hypothesis? How do we?
We would have to.
That's your job. You're the F-16 pilot.
It's all based off the interdimensional telescope.
We need to fly a plane. We build a jet. It needs a pilot. It's Artisan Tony.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
They'd have to have a big Irish plane for me to be the co-pilot.
Sorry, Alexei.
No, you're good, but I feel like that relates to Leslie Kean's work, where she has the mediums, the energy coming outward. It's all inward. Consciousness still continues to exist, but it goes to the denser experiences.
Yes,
exactly. It's all related.
I brought up your fast gamma state to DMT.
The thing about it is that when people like Leslie start talking about this and doing interviews like with you, Chris, like this, it opens up the door for other people to talk about it, and that's when it becomes sort of not as taboo as it is now. I have all my friends give me a hard time about this all the time now. It's just crazy. I'll be on the job and they'll be like, aren't you afraid that UFOs? Because I cleared out this big spot in the woods. It's, I don't know, 100 foot. It's like a 50-foot radius, right? 100 foot across. and my little tiny shack's going to sit on the edge of it, right? Well, I was hoping to put solar on one side, so I had to clear out enough trees, right? But they're like, "Oh, did you clear out a landing pad for UFOs right here?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "No, what is wrong with you people?"
This is a big yes. I don't know if
What
you
the-
noticed, but
What?
they exist. That's what she said. Is UFOs are real. The government's admitted it.
Well, I think they're real, and one reason I'm moving up there is because this mountain overlooks the valley where the nuclear plants are, right? And I've got my camera, and the first thing I'm gonna do after I get this thing built and moved in is I'm gonna set up my camera, my new infrared less, filterless infrared. How would you pronounce it? It doesn't. It accepts infrared wavelengths from 600 to 1200.
What's your theory on that, Alexei? Why do you think? Why is nuclear?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna do a share screen again here.
Yeah. I love hearing these theories, man. So yeah.
Well, I feel like it lines up, and it's just I find it interesting.
Yeah.
So can you guys? Maybe if I move this over here. Oh yeah, there we go. But basically, I mean, imagine if this is reality, right? The way I'm describing it, the time atom system, where like energy drifts inward. It's harder for me to use that screen, but there we go. So like, what happens when you destroy an atom?
Energy is released.
Like when
you break it apart, right? You're breaking the bonds.
Yeah, you like literally ripped an entire universe in half. You just killed an entire universe of people.
You think if we
that's not funny, but I mean,
no, it's not funny at all. It's not funny, but like
it's funny, but it's funny because we're that big scale above them, right? And we can rip little tiny atoms apart.
Well,
but it doesn't. Can you really destroy an atom, right? Because when we talk about nuclear fission, you're just splitting the atom, right? You're destroying the bonds, the relationship between those two, the systems, the main atom systems.
And
you're destroying the atom, but you are breaking apart the systems.
You're definitely ripping the systems, and I feel like what earlier in the book Time Atom, I relate the bonds, like the covalent, all those different bonds. I relate that to almost the bonds between people. So like the connections you have with people. So I mean, if that's the case, maybe you're causing a whole bunch of guys and girls to break up.
Yes, they cry.
I don't know. I'm just joking when I say that, but like, this is what I was more talking about. So now imagine we're the outer realm, and we're destroying an inner realm when we do a nuclear bomb.
And why are we the outer? I mean, couldn't we be? Where do you think we are? It just continues on forever, both directions. Is that the argument?
Yes, that is my argument.
Okay, that's the fractals inside of each other, and then which makes sense if you look down into your own body. It's just just different dimensional levels down to the atom.
Yeah, and then also bigger, and so you can do an interdimensional alignment where you align all your reincarnations together.
It's just a crazy theory, man. It's awesome. Or what you call it?
It ends up showing how we're all one, like and also introduces the concept of the Age of Aquarius. And this book was also accompanied with like a couple shooting stars right after I finished. When I went outside and like looked up and saw like shooting stars fly out, so it was one of those.
Cool.
But yeah, it shows that our harmony, like literally the collective human consciousness harmony, determines the potentiality of the denser experiences. So like when it comes to the seance hands and like UAP, I think they're creations of human stillness. That's almost like my final conclusion.
And human stillness, that's the laminar flow you're talking about. We do what we're supposed to do for the universe or something.
Laminar flow is like the ether,
perfect
right?
Stillness. We're like nirvana. If we all reached Buddha states, then it would be perfect. Is that the argument or the extrapolation?
There would be no delusions, that's for sure.
I think we influence the denser harmonics of experience is the important takeaway. Right? Like, I can't really say anything more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For positive and negative.
Right. Yeah. But it's, so if we want, I mean, it's our choice, right? If we want there to be more experiences that get denser and denser, then we all need to become like Buddha. So I think that's why they try to guide us in that direction.
I'm curious how Leslie came to her conclusion that there was more of a spiritual realm than just a physical. Did she say what led her to that?
No, she just said there's both. Just there's as much evidence as there is for UFOs. Basically, she's gotten the bug for the surviving death. You know, she got the bug for UFOs in 2000 with that Cometa report I explained, and then she's gotten the bug for surviving death for different reasons. But basically, it sounded like this. I haven't read the book or watched the series actually. It sounded like there's just tons of evidence. The same thing she saw for UFOs was when she went and actually searched. When she put her eye up to the telescope or microscope, she said that there was a bunch of evidence, and so that's why she's excited. And then for I guess some crossing things that I mentioned, when people saw UAPs, they saw deceased people. Also the reverse, when they're dying, they also saw UAPs. And then whatever else. I need to read the book essentially, but that was it. She said she thinks it's more complicated, much more complicated than we think or know about. Is her impression, and she thinks they're related, but there's no like clear evidence yet.
Oh, I think it's really cool how she goes into reincarnation, and she's done a lot of like good research on people being reincarnated and like going over their stories. Have you seen that?
No, yeah. I haven't. That book is that UFO book is it's almost 400 pages. It's a beast. So yeah,
the one she wrote.
I'm sorry.
What's the name of the book you're talking about? That's 400 pages.
UFOs, generals, pilots, and government officials go on the record. She wrote that in 2010. It had 18 contributing authors. Nick Pope wrote for it. Fife or Symington Fife, from Arizona, from the Phoenix Lights. She had like 4 generals. It's an amazing book. Just so many different articles, and they wrote it. Right, they wrote their little section, so it's basically like an experiencer. It's like a military pilot kind of experiencer book.
So that's all UAP though.
Yep.
Okay, so that
2010.
That doesn't go into
2010, and then 2017 was surviving death. Later 2020.
Well, when you say it, you kind of alluded to just now, Alexei, that you were like, well, if it's UAPs, it can't be that. But some people think that the UAPs are just plasma manifestations of that, right? What did you say? You said, oh, that's UAPs. You kind of alluded to that if it was UAPs, it couldn't be that. Is that what you mean? Or
no, oh, sorry. Are you talking to Chris or?
No, I was talking to you. You said something interesting like if it was UAPs, it couldn't be that.
No, well, I'm saying both UAPs and the seances are the same thing. They're a creation of human stillness or a creation of our energy state. The orbits within time that we're creating. That's what allows the denser harmonics to evolve. And so, like, based on the stillness at the quantum level is what layers can exist deeper and deeper and deeper. And so different places on Earth might actually have different layers that are actually existing. It's so weird to describe, but basically our stillness creates the habitats for the denser harmonics. So if I wanted to create a seance, I could focus on creating a hand coming out of my chest. I am the stillness of my quantum habitat, right? And so in my projection of consciousness, I'm also the stillness of the UAP. And then we have a collective consciousness. And it's almost like we literally create the UFO phenomenon through our energy state.
You don't think it's like other beings that we're able to see?
I'm sorry, what's that?
I mean, what about it's other actual beings, like other beings from these other denser states or lighter states, maybe even? Or, what is it? Them actually, we're seeing them, or some person is able to detect them. Like they've developed another sense, like eyes.
I think they're actually beings, and I think that just natural harmonization occurs sometimes. Like when you have those vortices that spiral inward or outward.
I mean, the thing about it is, I mean, how do how do other? I mean, there's this possibility that life evolved on other planets, right? So they could be physical beings like us too. They could just be more advanced.
Yeah.
Why can't it be? Why can't it just be a combination of a bunch of things? You know, where you have this more advanced race that is coming to visit because we sent all these radio waves out asking for them to come. You know, why can't it be that? That's like, Stephen Hawking and what a lot of people were saying, don't do that. Don't send those messages out asking for, don't publicize.
I'm saying it can definitely be that, but the way that they would be traveling here is by using faster than light technologies. And by the time you're using faster than light technologies, you're traveling through those quantum layers. And so before you're allowed to travel through those quantum layers, you have to understand that those are the denser experiences of creation. So you're going to be traveling through someone else's dimension when you do faster than light travel. Just food for thought. Yeah.
Well, I was reading what Vinny was saying. Personally, I'm confused and have no idea what's really real anymore. Well, I think we have to be careful about human. Like we have a human reality that we have to deal with, right? And we all have families, we have lives, we have bills to pay, and I think we have to be able to switch on and off. And I think we have to keep awareness of the human reality and our responsibilities here, but then we can, as a hobby, expand our minds. I think we have to train ourselves, and I had to do this starting as a teenager. I had to go to church on Sundays and pretend that I didn't have questions. Because I grew up in a Southern Baptist home, right? So there's a human reality that you have to live within, and I'm trying to say this for Vinny because I went through this. I've been going through it for 40 years. Where I have to live, I have to make a living, I have to, and this is what I think the government is concerned about, is that people will kind of lose their minds a little bit, and they won't be able to train themselves to be able to operate in this human physical world that we live in, and also accept that there's other things like this going on at the same time. I think that's one of the problems. What do y'all think about that?
Sorry about that. She said people just wouldn't accept it. Like when she tried to approach the editor, she wouldn't say even the word UFOs, but even after the report came out, that was when she was most surprised. She released the report, the Cometa report. It was this huge, they had all this documentation, all this data, high-ranking officials saying extraterrestrial thesis is possible. And then literally nothing happened. She was shocked. She thought investigative journalists would take it over because she had no access to anything. She was, a freelance reporter. And so she assumed all these real investigative journalists would take it and run, or Congress would get mad, something would happen, but nothing happened. Nobody did anything, she said. So then she started doing stuff, I guess. But she's very excited now. She said now it's totally different because Congress is just finally motivated. She's from Lou and Christopher Mellon, that they were like instrumental. She said she can't overstate how important they were in making it happen.
I think
it wouldn't be happening without them.
I think people are important. I think Lou's important. I think she's important. I have a terrible confidence in these politicians, because I know a bunch of them. And
I don't know any. Yeah.
I mean, I help put up yard posters for Bob Corker's campaign. Okay, United States Senator. Okay, I worked for him in the 90s. Okay, when he had the biggest construction company in the southeast of the United States, Bencor. Okay, I'm not saying I'm a buddy of his because he's one of the richest guys in the southeast. I'm saying these politicians have their own program. They have their own little world. They live in their own little world, and they really don't care about this.
Yeah,
it's a bullet point on some strategist has said, look, there's a bunch of people out there talking about UAPs. We need to get this on the, what I mean? And that's exactly what it is, I think. And so,
what about Tim Burchett though? He seems seriously pissed off though.
I don't know about him. I know, and he's a Tennessean, right?
Yeah,
but I'm
he's
not.
saying they're just going to rug pull it.
I know people keep asking me that, like I'm supposed to be impressed.
It was interesting too. Leslie said those videos weren't classified. Those
What
3 Navy
videos?
videos aren't even classified.
What
You know, you
videos?
see those hundreds of, targeting pod videos, just blowing things up, blowing houses up. Like, oh, we blew up this, whatever house. Who knows what was inside?
Yeah,
You know who was inside? Yeah, so it's unclassified. You can release it. There's no classification issues with the videos. I mean, the radar, yeah. So like the radar may have classified, whatever numbers and weapons data on it and all this stuff. But she said those 3 videos were unclassified. There's probably many more. They just have to release it.
I still don't know what videos you're talking about.
The 3 main Navy ones, the gimbal ones.
Oh, I thought you were talking about other.
Gimbal,
you were
go
talking
fast
about.
and clear.
You said something about blowing up houses. I thought you were talking about some other videos.
No, I'm talking about I remember just after Desert Storm, you were watching on TV. You watch, just all these weapon impacts.
Oh, okay.
But
I see.
I'm just saying the military, they're fine to put those out for propaganda, but they won't release these videos. It's not a classification issue. That's what I'm talking about. It's a public release.
It's an educational issue. There's going to be too much education at once, I think, with too much information released at once. That's what I think. But,
it's their information. Everybody is their information. Everybody wants to be private. Even doing my investigations now, everybody's like, that's private, that's shared. I mean, that's not shared. Everybody's got their information,
Right.
They keep it.
close to their heart.
You get away from my information.
That's why I just put my information out there. I mean, I know it might not be like collected with satellites, but it's definitely thought up. In my opinion, well thought up, and it answers some questions. So the information's out there. You got to share it. If you don't share it, nothing will ever happen.
Yeah, but it's not in their best interest because it'll require public pressure because they're working on it, right? In their view, they're working on it. They're investigating it.
Well, it's also the ego. They don't want to be wrong, maybe, right?
Yeah,
like
it's their information. As soon as they release it, it's not their information anymore. It's everybody's information.
Right.
Now everybody can gain from that.
Right.
Maybe they figure out how to contact or whatever these things are, or maybe they figure out how to gain some technological advantage.
Well, that's the nature of the in quotes phenomenon. It's not going to work like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't think it'll work?
Well, like when they had the friendship case back in the 70s and 80s, it was like all the I think it was like in France, they had all these top officials connecting with UAP, and they were creating like this interdimensional telescope thing. Yeah. And then basically the people got greedy towards the end. They had a lot of wants, don't wants, assumptions, and expectations. And from my understanding, that literally distorts the quantum field, doesn't allow for the denser harmonics to exist. Boom, your interdimensional telescope will no longer happen. So like based off of the greediness of the people that are trying to hold the power, they'll never be able to learn more.
That's so awesome.
Yeah,
I hope that's true, man. It's like
it is awesome, but I can also see how people are intimidated by that, because it's like I was a bit intimidated by meditation, and the deepest I ever got into meditation actually caused some side effects for me. Well, I associate the side effects with those, and I think that who was saying this earlier? He doesn't even Vinny. I don't even know what's real anymore. Or somebody was talking about meditation earlier, and it made me remember how I cut back on how I was meditating, because the deepest I ever felt like you don't know, because my problem is that I do it at the wrong time of day. So I do it at night. So I end up usually going to sleep. It's like I used to practice it just to relax, to go to sleep. Right. And that was the only reason, honestly, was because I had run into this fellow who used it for that. And it obviously works, right? So now I have a hard time not going to sleep, right? But the times that I have accomplished not going to sleep but reaching deep meditation are the times that I've had these worst events that seem like, beings there in the room, and that's the scary stuff, And so And one of the worst one, and I see it. I'm really loosening up because I would have never talked about this years ago. But the one was like a black praying mantis. I mean, it was big. We have a big ceiling fan, and it was beside that, and it was upside down on the ceiling, you know, and it turned its head around all the way and looked down. And of course, that was freaky, you know. But I was awake, and I must have, maybe I was hallucinating. I don't know. But that was after the deepest, I felt like the deepest point. So with all this research on meditation, and then when I started learning about, Stephen Greer's, the CE5, whatever you want to say about Stephen Greer, whatever, there's a lot of people who hate Stephen Greer, but it started making me realize that. And then I saw the research about, this recently about the scientists who think that there's a certain level of our brain that can access, is it the fourth or fifth dimension? Maybe it can operate there. Have you seen that research?
I think you brought that up with Ratherby the other day, right?
I need to go get it because every time I bring it up, people look at me like I'm crazy. But there's actually research into. I could probably Google it right now. If you want to talk about something, I will go find it because people are always like, "What are you talking about?" But anyway, I think.
All right, talk about something. Somebody mentioned Bob Lazar. I wonder what they said. They mentioned Bob Lazar in French. Have you seen Bob Lazar's first video? His video from the '80s where he pulls up in a Corvette and explains everything.
Oh, I saw that 30 years ago.
You haven't seen that, Alexei? You need to watch it, man.
Came.
100%.
Yeah.
If only just to hear the crazy ideas that who knows, I don't know. He talks about gravities. There's two types of gravity B and gravity A. We just know about gravity B because it's the weak force.
Right.
Gravity A is actually inside the basically the atoms, and that's the super strong force that we haven't really figured out yet.
Oh, makes sense.
And what he's saying is that basically what you need is elements that are heavy enough that the gravity A attraction inside the field goes outside of the actual diameter of the atom, and then you can tap into that energy. But the problem is in our solar system, we have it's a sole binary system. It's like low. We're not hydrogen, but we're like carbon or something. But around us, there's systems that are much bigger. Right. And so in these systems, there's these naturally occurring elements like 115, stable 115, etc.
Right. We didn't get much heavier than iron before our star went endothermic, right?
Yeah.
But what I was getting at is, oh man, what were you just saying? The atoms. Can I do a share screen again here?
Well, I was going to do mine first. Hold on.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
All you people out there looking at me like I'm crazy. What is this? Where is it? Right here. God. This is not the article that I saw, but it's one similar to it. And it was about research into the brain's ability to operate on a higher level than we know of. This was just one article right here. Okay. So if you think I'm crazy, you can just go research it.
There it is. There's your fractals. Alexei, there's your fractals. There it is.
No, I mean that we can only get up to 11. I don't know about that. We'll see.
No, I mean this is just one article. I'm just saying the science, and that's Science Magazine.
Well, those are dimensions. That's not even wavelengths within those dimensions, right?
Yeah. So I think part of the problem we're dealing with is it's like when I mentioned it to you guys, you were just staring at me. And I was like, that's the problem we're dealing with. Not you guys, because you're my friends. I know you didn't mean it that way. But when you talk to other people, that's what they do. They stare at you like, what in the heck are you talking about?
Well, I think that's a very strong argument that Alexei, you brought it up before. I think it's in one of your in your first book about the, at first there's only touch in the evolution. Yeah, there's only touch. So that's all that the organisms can sense then, and then they get sound. So now they can tell there's, bigger area, and they can tell Doppler shift movement.
Right, but at that point in evolution, that's all you would think there is, right? And then we get to the point where there's light. Yeah, exactly. So now we
sense light. Yeah, we get eyes. So you basically are evolving new sensor systems. We talked about that before as well, where
Yep.
Maybe it is a different sensor system. Like Tony, maybe you could see an IR, like if Neuralink comes out and you can program, you can see in different spectrums, different frequencies. I don't know. Maybe there's some other geometrical relationship there.
And see, that's where I'm suspect. And I know I really like Alexei and how you get me to think deeper than I do, but I always tend to think on the physical realm, and because that's what we have to deal with, you know. And I think we may find out that some of this stuff is just like that. We can't imagine it or access it or are not aware of it, and so it seems spiritual to us, you know. But it may be both. I think it's both. I think there is a spiritual world, obviously, but some of this stuff is going to, like maybe UAPs. You know, I think there are other beings from other, even planets that have evolved.
Yeah.
You know? And if you look at the late, what is it called, the late planet theory, that Earth is relatively late in the evolution of our solar system or our galaxy, or we're late in the game. In other words, the theory exists that there were civilizations in other star systems that evolved long time ago, right? And that those are the people that those are some that we may be dealing with now. We're actually maybe late to the game as far as evolution is concerned. So I don't know.
I wanted to share a screen before we got too far away from the 2 types of gravity from Bob Lazar.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
so
Good,
I
forgot about
You
it.
got to watch that video. It's so good. It's so good, that video.
So, okay, so check this out. So if this is the way I would just see it off the top of my head based off, I'm like clicking the wrong screen. Hold on a second. Where's my mouse? Okay, there it is. So we have the field of energy and we have an orbit, which gives us the now moment. So if this is our densities of creation, literally you would be having 2 types of gravity. You would have gravity coming from the denser and then gravity coming from the less dense.
That makes sense. The denser would be gravity A, I would assume, is stronger, right? Inside the atoms.
That would be the inside the atom gravity. And then this would be the outside the atom gravity.
And this thought, right? And I'm sure it's been in ufology for decades. But that could be one very strong argument for keeping this stuff under wraps if you had any materials. Right? Say they did get a ship or from some archaeological find. Say Bob Lazar is correct and we have those 9 ships. Then it means the materials you can't be made here on Earth or even in our system. So basically we'd have to capture things like Oumuamua. And maybe that's what it is. You know, I was thinking about that. Avi Loeb, he was saying that maybe civilizations send these things out there. Maybe they know that they just send these materials into systems that they know don't have the capability to create these heavier elements.
Right.
And so when we reach a star-faring enough phase, maybe we go and grab Oumuamua. Say if it is an artificial system, what if it is just a block of E115 or whatever?
Have to be able to
it's
get
just
there
like
first,
this giant thin block, and it's in pieces, so you can chop it up and put it right in your little, reactors or whatever. Just a crazy thought I had, because he says, Avi Loeb, he said in the interview that it's very rare to get an interstellar, although we've had, I think, 5 others, I believe, but still, that was the first one detected.
From another solar system completely, right?
Yeah.
Well, the difference is the change in speed and trajectory, right? That was what was really caught their eye, was that it was propelled. It changed. It was propelled with the gravity, around the sun.
Off-gassing.
They thought it was off-gassing, right? Or that was the original theory.
It was accelerating like it was off-gassing, but when they searched for it, there was no gas coming off of it.
Plus that, it actually accelerated at one point. So you wouldn't have...
Well, they do, right? There's a cosmic wind. The sun is putting out whatever its nuclear fire, right? That's going out.
Yeah.
And basically that's why your comet tail always points away from the sun. Even if the comet's going away from the sun, the tail's just in front of it.
Yep.
Right.
Does that make sense?
What
Yeah,
Avi's saying, if you go back and look at what he was talking about his paper that he wrote about this thing, was that it's going away from the sun, right? And that the relative speed that it doesn't make sense. In other words, there's something about that
No, that's
convinced
from
him
off-gassing.
enough to be part of the Galileo project, right?
It's from the off. Well, he had a few arguments. I read the book after I had the interview with him. A few of his arguments, the main, the ones I remember at least, was the off-gassing, because they will accelerate, right? Your comets will accelerate because as it and if there's a whatever liquid or ice, so ice essentially on the comet, as it heats up, it'll cause a force, a small tiny force, as it's whatever sublimating.
Right, but as I'm saying, as it leaves the solar system,
Yeah.
okay, and it's past that a point that it's being affected by the sun at that rate, right? You shouldn't have acceleration beyond the amount that it has already accelerated, right? After it leaves the solar system, you shouldn't get acceleration after that. I would.
Right. The acceleration should slow down related to the distance. The further you get from the sun, the more you should slow down.
The off-gassing should slow down, and so it should. Right. I thought that's what Avi was. That's what I thought I heard him say in an interview.
Yeah, and then the other one is it's too thin. So the only object that they've seen that is that thin and long, right? Most things are like rock shaped, but not that thin. It's like 15-to-1 ratio was a man-made object. It's like a booster, because it's that thin metal. So that's what. Right. But it's just crazy thought, maybe go capture one of these asteroid things.
Avi's awesome. I love those guys.
I would love to catch asteroids.
I'm getting ready to mail off as a side note, I had purchased an FM antenna to study so that I could draw all the parts of it. And as part of the thing I was helping them with, the CAD work. And so I'm donating the FM antenna that I bought to them. So it's exciting to be a part of something, even if all you're doing is, I'm contributing in some way. I just think it's
cool.
Awesome.
That's to the Galileo project. You gave it to them.
The Galileo project,
built it and everything, or
they are testing after all the design work was done. Now they're going to build something. They're moving in sort of the testing phase of this. So I'm sending it to somebody in Colorado. I don't know if I can give his name out or not, but I'm sending it there, and he's going to be doing some testing. And then I guess they're going to actually. What I'm trying to get them to do is let me fabricate the thing and send it to them. For some reason, they keep thinking I will charge them. I'm saying, no, I will build this thing for free, and I will send it to you. I design, the tower that I designed that's portable. I don't know if you've seen my video, but it comes apart in pieces. Yeah. It actually has a case it all fits into. Very practical, But
just have Avi on. I bet Avi Loeb, man, have him on your show. Tell him you'll send him.
I can't get anybody like that to come on because I'm just, some carpenter from Tennessee.
Have you asked him?
I have. I've sent multiple. That's really how I got involved in the first place. I was wanting to try to interview Avi. And this guy, the guy sends me an email. Well, there's other ways you can contribute. And I'm like, oh, yeah, how? Well, you can work with this guy. So it's some guy from Caltech. Again, I don't know if I can mention names, but I worked with some guy from Caltech on the design of the radio tower, the frequency tower. So anyway, I didn't mean to get off on. I guess I wanted to say, Avi's,
I don't know.
Avi's an awesome guy, and I wish I could talk to him, but I don't know if I know how to talk to him. He's it's like trying to talk to Alexei. You can't. It's hard. I'm just kidding. Alexei.
I've been going to the Sky 360 meetings, though, developer meetings on Sundays. Anyone interested in that stuff? Yeah. Certainly go.
The developer meetings for what? What's the development?
Sky 360, the system basically that can.
Sky 360. Okay.
Yep. So it's basically the developers are meeting now to design the final hardware and software. So AI will be an issue, but I'm calling my cousin in. Hopefully he can help with the artificial intelligence. Because right now, so basically the general idea is to have a fisheye lens, one big sensor, right? Everybody else, like the Galileo projects, All Sky 7, that's the meteor detection system. That works really well, but it records it. It doesn't need real-time information. So they have these little cameras, and they don't need so much detail, right? But what you realize is if your sensor's like that small, it's just not going to work. Like for any satellite system, you need like a meter, and even so on the ground, you're not going to get really good detail. So the Christian, he's basically the main developer. He's going with a larger sensor and one big fisheye. So it covers half the sky. And now you just have to train that one fisheye camera with AI processing to real time point out, hey, that's, don't worry about that.
Right?
It's a cloud. Yeah, it's looking up.
Okay.
Exactly. So that's and it's not an easy problem. We're very good at that, and computers are very terrible at it.
What kind of detector does it have in it? Is it like a CCD? Like
It's just a sensor that puts a USB into a Jetson like little imaging supercomputer thing. They have these different levels of Jetsons you can buy. It's kind of like high-end Arduinos, but it's a full little imaging. I don't know so much about it. I haven't built a system yet. But that's basically it. You have your lens with your sensor, and then going into your Jetson.
Do they have a website where they're keeping doing updates for that?
Yes. Well, sky360.org is their main website, and I'm obviously a big supporter of it. And then Discord. So really, it's all work on the Discord, and right now it's just heavy duty developer work, trying to analyze that because it's difficult, right? Because you have to real time. You have to point the point to zoom camera, right? So we have the fisheye, and then right next to it, you need to zoom in because otherwise we're never going to get any HD videos. You need a big sensor as big as you can get, and then you need like a long zoom as good as you can get.
Right.
And then now you can get like at that HD photo that like everybody wants. I don't want this little crappy handheld thing. We want to triangulate it from different sensors. We get like a full 3D mapping of whatever we collect.
And it would be an optical zoom, right? Or a digital zoom.
Optical. Yeah. So
exactly.
It's on the website. Yeah. So optically zooms. Christian's he's an astronomer, been doing it for many years, so he's full up. But that's it. That's a difficult problem though, because it has to point out.
That's what I was saying. That's challenging.
There's bugs. There's like insects. There's clouds. There's tree branches. There's tons of stuff.
So the end game is to be able to sell, have kits to be able to build yourself or support. How is this?
100%. So basically, the design needs to be finalized this year, right? We started over. SkyHub basically couldn't get there. I think because a large part due to this issue. It's just hard. Artificial intelligence. It's a difficult problem, right? It seems you're like, oh, it's not that hard, but it's actually difficult to teach a computer to visually observe. It's what Teslas essentially do. That's what they've been spending, years and millions of dollars on. So that by Q4, we should have a working fully prototype. And you can so like Tony, say you want to build your own system, right? You're like, I'm going to get into this, or a group of you guys, we three decide to go in a system and you build it or something. Basically, you would order the parts from Amazon. You go to Discord, follow the directions to put it together, which is basically, plugging USBs into enclosures. You order the enclosure, and then you would download the AI software and hopefully just hit run. That would be the ideal situation. And then the AI software, is basically setting up the system, and then you would just manage it, make sure it's cleaned it off once in a while, go check on it, those sorts of things.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's.
And we're talking about getting one that points down too, right? Weren't you saying
exactly?
Like
yep. So that's what I'm doing with the NFTs. So the idea for the NFTs now is it's kind of to generate a
screenshot real quick before we move on to that.
What's that? Yeah.
Let me just screenshot this real quick. This is where you can go to volunteer and to help the Galileo Project. Just doing something simple. You mentioned machine learning. You were talking about how difficult it is, and I've done like here's my count 2,299.
Wow.
So you can help. There's ways you can go and help them. Teach machines how to teach their AI how to identify aircraft. And
does it say how to steal their software and put it into a Sky 360? Well, you need the problem is you need the exact footage, right? Because we're going to use a fisheye, so it's distorted. So we couldn't even use what you just trained there, Tony, because we need the exact distorted footage on the side.
What you're doing though is I'm showing the computer thousands of images of a jet at 50,000 different angles. And after it collects that data, enough of it, it will be able to just look at that and say, yeah, that's a jet, that's an F-16 instead of an F-15, or that's what that's what they're doing.
Easy when you say it.
Well, I mean, they got guys from Harvard and Caltech and MIT and all this, working on this stuff. So,
I mean, I would hope that we can, work together, and this would all be open source. So, say we solve this problem, right, and we develop this GitHub. It'll be GitHub software, so anybody can download it, and then if it's Amazon global sourced, anyone can order it. So you can put together your own system.
When do you project being able to build a system?
We're aiming for Q4 to make it fully legit. Cool. But Alexei was mentioning, because there's the point to zoom is really the difficult, that part I just talked about, right? That AI, because it's got to be real time, right? So the meteor system, they don't care. They see a giant, they can look later and be like, nothing, green flash, right? Okay, what was there? Now they can focus in on that and track it. But like for this, it has to be real time. So it's that real time. I look over there. Okay, that's nothing. I look over here. Okay, that's something. Cue the point to zoom.
Right. And since you're doing optical, I mean, that's way more challenging than a digital, right? Because digital zoom, you just kind of like slew to the right direction and just zoom in, or not even. You just keep it in sight, and then you digitally zoom in later. But digital zoom or optical, you need to be able to like get the focal length.
And so there may be different levels, Tony, because at the beginning, there are sites set up now. Like in France, there's a site. In Houston, there was a SkyHub system that got it, where it got a UAP. There was a white dot that just stopped. It looked like an orb. It looked like a satellite until it stopped. All right. And then it just sat there for a while, and then it left. So you could say, okay, maybe it was a drone. But you start running out of things. If you have a few of those systems, even without a point to zoom, you can at least get some scientific data, right? We don't have a point to zoom, but we can still pick up UAP events. You're not going to get that like zoom in, amazing detail data. But if you have 3 systems now, we can figure out where that thing was, right? And now if we can say, hey, this thing was up at, 90,000 feet, we'll be like, okay, that's something that's anomalous. Or you could say, hey, maybe it's just a drone, we know it's here, or gives you more data.
Well, that's how we find asteroids and comets, right? I mean, we just take optical pictures of the sky and we compare the thousands of those images, and eventually you'll see a little dot walking across, right? It's that kind of thing, right?
And it's in night vision, so it'll work. It's not quite the night vision, not quite, it borders on both, So I'm very excited about the NFTs. Came back, so we went back to the drawing board and got my buddy Colin on it. And so that's the idea you were mentioning, Alexei, is we need data from space.
Looking downward, exactly.
Yeah, 100%. So
now some people watching aren't going to know what you're talking about as far as using the NFTs to help support.
Okay, I'll just. Project. All right, I'm going to show it here if that's cool. I don't know.
Awesome.
The artist. Actually, I don't know if this.
I can always blur this part out if they don't like it.
I'll just show it, whatever. I'll share it. The artist's probably gonna be like, no. This is draft, right? Obviously. Let me move this. I don't know. Can you see my screen? Yeah. So this is our little UAPs. UAP EEZ. That's what it's going to be called. NFT collection.
Easy.
And there's, there's a million different. I want to do some memes. Put the pyramids, different locations, Catalina Islands, Nimitz. All you guys are going to have some memes in there. I'm going to put the wells on.
You're going to have my little artist and UAP in the background.
Yes, the artist and UAP, the headset, Alexei's scarf. Love that thing. Anything we can come up with. If you guys want to help with that, it would actually help.
It's my be safe for COVID.
Yeah. This is actually extremely. It's difficult to make it look as good as it does. I think, the Colin spent like hours on each little pixel shading. And you'll see it if even down here it looks good, right? The 8-bit kind of shades out.
What is this, like 300 by 500? How many pixel? What's the pixel count on?
I can't actually. It's like
they're not very big, right? They're only like
248.
300 pixels square, right? They're not that large, right?
Well, the CryptoPunks are 24 by 24. And so the idea is, so we sell this. This is called a Genesis collection. There's going to be many other things. Okay, this is like the baseline. You've seen, the initial draft, but there'll be basically many other variations and layers. So we'll have a collection from anywhere from 5 to 10,000. And then what will happen is we will 3D make this into voxels. If you've seen the Meebits, I can bring that up. So we'll make that into voxels, and that 3D. So we'll take those 3D NFTs, 3D print them, and then put them on the satellite, Alexei. So while we're collecting the data, then we will. It'll fund that data collection, if that makes sense.
So here's just you can do the 3D printed. You can actually send up a 3D print, or you can send up a mold, like an actual rubber guy, right? So this is just like a little alien guy I made. He's part of one of my cartoon characters,
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So these are the Meebits. If I can put this back, Tony. Or sorry, I'll show it. I'll let you have it. So this is for the metaverse, right? So the metaverse, Facebook changed their name to Meta. Basically, it's just going to be the next internet. It's right now you go to the internet and you're sitting at a computer and you type in, right? That's kind of how, and then you read these pages off a display. I think the meta is you're going to have these 3D environments that you can, put on a VR headset or put on some little glasses. And now you can look around and you'll be in that area. You can move around, you can show cool art, NFTs, you can do business, there's advertising. So they're building these big spaces. I saw Sandbox is selling a ton. Snoop Dogg bought some, land. And so anyway, this is for the metaverse. And these characters are going to be like kind of icons. I see it as icons going into the metaverse. This is Larva Labs. They created CryptoPunks. And so this is a huge brand. Each one of these is going for $12,000 right now on the low end. So, these people are investing. You don't just buy a Meebit because you think it's cute, right? I mean, you buy it because you're investing in the future in Meebits, in the metaverse, whatever comes down the line, and you think it's cute, right? And so that's why it's more fun. You can buy like some boring stock or some people doing shareholder BS meetings, or you can buy NFTs, man, and Meebits and run them around in the digital universe. And I don't know, it's just so much more fun. And the artwork's amazing. So anyway, that's the idea, is to do the first Genesis NFT set that I just showed, the draft, and then make them into a 3D set. And then that 3D set, we will put those around the camera, Alexei. So it's like fisheye. I want to just glue them. Yeah, like you just showed around. So they're going to be in space, right? So your NFT, we're sending these modes to space is the idea. And the point is going to pay for that satellite that can now, because looking up is very different from looking down at the Earth. It's completely different, like you mentioned.
Yeah,
we need all new data. So that's the basic game plan, and I think it has a high chance, much higher than I thought.
I just had this vision of them being plastered around the fisheye camera, and then they blocking out, UAPs as the UAPs go by, the little guys block them out. So that one angle we wanted was blocked out by the Alexei.
It's right there. It'll be Alexei, the alien with his scarf right there. It'll be like one alien with the hat and the glasses. That's all going. The beard's in there for sure.
You're gonna have the most official video ever captured, and it's gonna be surrounded by all these little goofy characters, and it's gonna be shown all over the world.
I love it, man. I love it.
Awesome.
I don't know. It's clear. We just have to execute, and I think this guy's good, man. Colin's good. I think we can do it.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, you said we just have to execute. And I'm not talking about you, Chris. I'm saying humans still have to execute. I mean, it's difficult, and this is the thing I see going forward. This is something I've thought about for a long time. How are we going to keep people grounded as we move into this new realm of understanding? It's going to be very difficult for some people to even go to work the next day. But we need people to go to work. We have to keep.
Job's terrible. What is it like? The coal miners, they're all like up in arms. I'm like, that is the worst job ever.
I know,
just
but
stop doing that one. Like I don't know. I think I've moved all around the world, and I think if your position is so terrible, is so just horrible.
But if you think supply chains are bad now,
go somewhere else. Like do something else with your life. I don't know. I think maybe they should be doing those crappy jobs, Tony. I really don't.
I understand. Here's the thing. My son. My son sent his key fob through the washing machine for his Kia, right? I said, no big deal. We'll just call the dealer. You know what? You can't get Kia key fobs now. You're screwed, right? They're just not available. I called 10 dealers. You can't get them. Supply chain issues, right? If you think this, we still have to remain. Our bodies, we as humans are trapped. We're trapped here on Earth. Okay, I hate to tell you. Okay, so no matter how much we learn about, spirituality and aliens and woo woo, we still got to survive if we want to, right? Don't we all want to still survive and live and be happy? And you know what I mean? I mean, come on. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah. I mean, I do.
We still need people to work so they can buy your NFTs. Who can afford a $12,000 NFT if they're not going to work, if they're spending all day in the metaverse, And so there's a balance. All I'm saying is a balance. People, if you're not going to, flip burgers, you're going to have to find another way to have income. You got to keep grounded. You got to keep your psyche grounded, and I think I've learned to do that over the past 40 years, and everybody else can too. I think
it's just going to go more digital, which I think is better. Everyone's complaining about the power usage of like Bitcoin and all these systems, but if you look, it's not causing that much havoc. We're building stuff in the digital world, creating all these giant. We're creating all this land. We're creating these metaverses. We're creating value, and people want it. The reason people pay $12,000 for that is they want it.
I know, but we have to have an economy that can afford that. The only way that you can have a large group of people that can afford that is to keep the economy healthy, to keep that machine going. You can't have the machine break down and have, you know what I mean? You can't have people's psyche break down, and I think that's part of why we have secrecy. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was saying that I think the biggest problem is just over-regulation and the laws never go away. Elon Musk keeps bringing that up. It just never goes away. I mean, there's certain things we don't need anymore. There's many processes that we do in the physical world. We could easily transition to the digital. That is the whole point of crypto. That's why I'm so bullish on crypto, NFTs, blockchain technology, is it can get rid of just all the terrible mind-crushing, human soul-removing bureaucracy that we all deal with on a daily basis, which is just so stupid. The people doing it, it's terrible for them that have to do those terrible, crappy jobs. And then on our end, when we just get punched in the stomach repeatedly, like you don't have to do a lot of those things. It can just convert to digital, and you can actually remove a lot of these terrible jobs. Like, so I just bought a Tesla, right? There's no key fob for Teslas. It goes through my phone. It's all digital, and right now it's very expensive. It's super expensive, but at some point they're going to come down in price. And so you're not going to have key fobs anymore. It just goes away. That problem is removed. You won't need to get a key fob anymore, Tony, because you won't need it.
Well, my son's car didn't really need it, because once you got in the car, you could push a button to start the car, right?
Yeah,
but the key fob had the security part of the issue, right? So that's the part that got destroyed. I'm just saying, if you want to be able to get your sushi, somebody's got to go out and catch the fish. Somebody, you know what I mean? There still has to be a system of people working to be able to support the metaverse. You know what I mean? We can't completely move into. We have physical bodies that have to be fed and watered, and
No, it's really interesting. Like we're building robots to do all the work for us, almost.
And then we can just meditate all day. We can meditate.
And the robots are even doing the crazy thinking too, almost like the distribution aspects. They'll be able to solve those questions much quicker than a human mind. So I'm
worried about us being written out of the equation.
Well, and that's where what will be left for us to do is that spiritual development, like you're saying. Like that's what will be left. So in that sense, it's going to open up a lot of time, but leisure time can be a blessing or a curse, right? What people choose to do with their leisure time is obviously can be constructive or destructive.
I can help them if they need help at their leisure time.
Yeah, well, that's where it's all about leisure, how people spend their leisure time and their focus.
Yeah, I like action. You know, I find so I went. You know, I paid other artists to do the first NFTs, and it failed. You know, but we started moving. And
How did you measure that failure though? I'm curious about that because I remember meeting those guys in that meeting that you had, and was the artwork just too complicated? Or was it too?
It was the concept. So basically, his art was creating on with his hand on Procreate on an iPad. And what I learned is the artist, when you're creating, you need to create in the final medium that you're presenting it in. Is it, you know, like if an author writes a comic book, you're not gonna be able to just translate it into like a novel. So he was doing basically comic essentially drawing, but we're converting it into this digital product. And it basically I was emulating looking at a couple other projects that was creative art, and those failed essentially. So there's nothing just on the market. So the market kind of defined it, and then my basically lack of knowledge. You know, I don't know how to run still don't how to run a design project, but I got, you know, basically the action creates like an inertia, and then that will actually brings in other people and things, you know.
Well, that's what's so interesting, right? And so we literally are creating the human collective consciousness. Our choices, our wants, what you want to achieve creates this action that you're speaking of. And when you have, I mean, that is how reality is created, the creators. Do you see what I'm getting at already?
Yes.
Like how we literally create reality.
I see. I mean, it's a difficult concept to believe, you know, or to take seriously, but no, it's I could see it. You know, I almost think that now we're only limited by our lack of imagination, I think.
Well, that, and then so once you're at a financially stable position, that's when you get to that point. But before that, people have to conquer the delusion, like Tony and I was talking about, of making money to pay the food, to get the bill, once you can remove yourself from that, you know, that's when you're actually a free person and a free thinker.
That's interesting. I was very ambitious. I wrote a fitness book. It's called Stay on Target. I haven't talked about it much, but I'm actually quite proud of the book. It's not necessarily, it's a motivation book that I wrapped in a fitness book package.
I like the name
because I was kind of scared to just say what I thought, you know. So I am proud of the science in the book. But basically, that was the idea: is focusing on your own mental and physical aspects first. Because after that, you know, it doesn't matter if you have money, if you're mentally a wreck or you're physically a wreck. You can be rich. I mean, I guess you can be rich and be physically a wreck and still, you know, do.
Well, I read about that in my book. I say basically the wealthiest man in the world really has no duties or obligations, kind of has 100% leisure time, but so does a homeless guy. Like a homeless guy literally has 100% leisure time too. It's the people that are in the middle trying to live up to these stresses that people have created that they haven't been able to conquer. So like conquer what you can control first, like you're saying, your own mind, your own body.
That was the idea. So that was the reason I wrote that book. And also it's very difficult to finish a book, as I'm sure you know, right? To start it, finish it, edit it. It's actually it's good, right? Or you think it's good. So it was very helpful to write a book about staying on target, right? Not quitting. That's the idea. You just don't ever freaking quit. And you find a way to do that. And I relate the 4 T's, which is this an amazing, I think, process analysis tool.
Wait, I was reading something. Did you finish your book, or you're going to finish it? You've already finished it. Have you already written it?
Oh, my recent one about the Iraq. These are my old books. In 2016, I wrote Stay on Target, a fitness book.
What the heck? I would have bought this book. Why didn't you say anything?
I like it, man. It's good. And then, I talk about this, Alexei, because just kind of in order. And then I wrote a finance book, right? Because I think once you get your mind and body in order, then you can get your finances in order. Like just like you mentioned, getting through the delusions. And the
Right.
idea is, I want people, and that's actually why I want to do the NFT thing, right? Because I could just say, hey, rich people out there, give me $3 million, give me $3.5 million, and I can send the satellite up. I'll put your name on the side of it. But I don't want a funding, I want to create wealth for all these people. So hopefully it works. Right, a lot of pressure, but that would be the idea: is to create, to bring along people, like you said, get them to a state where they don't have to worry about all these financial stuff. And
can't
now
you do both though? I mean,
Um,
can't you have supporters like the guy who can donate 3.5 million, but also have the NFTs?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
'cause,
definitely.
I mean,
It just means a lot more. We can do cooler science experiments. Like I would like to put up. I think 3 million. You can get up like one satellite in a full system probably, and then for 9 million, I think you can put up 3 satellites, right? And then if you can put them as far apart as you can, right, going around whatever their orbit is,
Exactly.
triangle, and then if we can get sensitive enough little detectors, you can shoot lasers because there's no, it's not going to interfere in space, right? 100% transmissivity. So we can do our own large or LIGO detector, right, up in space. It's going to be orbiting around. So maybe so if there are big, larger waves out there, that maybe we can detect from this, whatever, outer dimensions or.
So it wouldn't be like a fixed orbit. It wouldn't be a fixed.
Yeah. So that would be awesome. And then, the telescope. So yeah, hopefully it works. That would be the idea. But to bring people to care more about the world. Like I've just not been. I've been very disappointed. Growing up. I think people could really use to see through their daily delusions of greed and avarice.
It's hard because it's hard to get out sometimes, right? Like, I mean, you mentioned it before. Obviously you're in the Air Force. Like, you know how challenging it can be to finally like free yourself from a spiral that you're in.
Yeah, I just have my butt cheeks clenched for 20 years. Just grinding it out. I mean, I was. I mean, just amazingly lucky. I can't imagine. I mean, just talking to my friends today. Yeah, we were out surfing. Just how lucky we are. Yeah. So I'm just happy to get back. And I want people to get to this position. Other people that are motivated and interested. So hopefully.
But I think the difference is, okay. So the difference is you can work hard and get there, right? You can work smart and get there, and you can work hard and get there. I worked hard to get where I am, right? My design build company now, I worked hard to do it. Elon Musk worked smart to get to where he is, right? You can do both. And I don't want people to lose sight of the fact that you can work hard and get there. Okay. And I think what we're teaching people now, or what I'm hearing, is that they don't have to work to get there. Well, if you're like me and you have limited brain capacity, I'm not Alexei. One of the smartest things you can do is realize you're not.
You always say that, man. You're so smart.
You're not that guy over there.
Yeah.
I'm serious. You have to take the blinders off and be aware of what your own abilities, right? And my abilities are building things. That's all I can do. And in order to do that, I have to physically put crap together. I can't do it in the metaverse. I have to build. I have to.
You do it in the metaverse all the time, man. That's your show.
That's planning.
You're building stuff in.
That's planning. That's the illusion.
You are in the metaverse.
You just made me realize. You just made me realize I'm creating an illusion. That's a delusion.
I go out
during the day, and I need to do more videos of when I'm actually putting that stuff together. Well, the metaverse is what makes the money that allows me to do other things.
I think it's on like anything else, man. It's belief. I think most people believe, they just don't actually believe that whatever money they invest or whatever money they save, or it will not. They can't believe it could possibly get to a very large amount. They can't believe it could get to millions of dollars that could support them, and so that. If you never start, you will 100% fail. It's like the ground has a PK of probability kill of 1, right? It doesn't. It's actually a little bit. But
I mean, it's like me. I started in 1987. I bought my first house. It cost $32,500. That's unheard of now, right? There's a 1,400 square foot bungalow in a crappy part of town. My family's like, "Why are you buying a house over there?" It was a ghetto. And now it's like plush part of Chattanooga, but you can start someplace, just like you're saying, Chris. You can start. The idea, though, is you got to balance the human need, the human physical side of humanity, with the spiritual side of what we're kind of talking about right now. You have to balance it, or you will lose. You will lose. You cannot. You have to compete in the world physically and spiritually. It's about. There's a balance there.
Such a crap. I mean, I didn't even believe in the spiritual world before like May. That's a,
I don't believe
awesome, man. I'm happy that it's a possibility. It's cool.
Well, if people like me who were born in the Bible Belt, it was just part of your You went to church. I mean, that's where we ate dinner on Wednesday night, the church, right? You go to church on Wednesday night, have a dinner, everybody gets together, covered dish, then you have a service. And then on Sunday morning, you have Sunday school, blah, blah, blah. And so part of my thing was, when I was coming up in that was being, I'm like, how can I talk to these people about my questions about reality? Because I've had this experience, and I'm thinking, I'm just going to live through it, man. I'm just going to keep going. Keep grinding out, like you're saying, Chris. Grinding out. My cheeks clench. And just when I get older, I can someday talk about it. And today's, now is that time. It's amazing.
Yeah, I've reached that point, and I even thought like maybe I'm going on, too much exposure. If you look like the big time, whatever celebrities, they won't. If you put out too much content, it dilutes your message, right? You're not as famous or something. I don't know, but I just don't care anymore. I don't care what.
That's the delusion.
I try not to. I even find myself caring, Alexei.
No, I know. So like,
it pisses me off. I'm like, why do I care? Like, this guy. Somebody wrote me. It was it was on YouTube. He's like, I don't know what happened, man. You became like a middle-aged nerd. Something else, and I remember getting really mad, and I was like, what, I like started typing back like, and then I realized like I am a middle-aged nerd. Like I would define myself as like a middle-aged nerd, but I like getting stuff done. I like doing stuff, not caring what people think, hopefully.
Yeah, no, I started off in a rough industry with the skateboards, right? I'm the nerd who put their books in their skateboard and rode around college, and then like I'd go to the skate park and they're like, dude, you can't do tricks in that, and I was like the nerd. But then there's also like the longboard. So basically it's like a big split. You've got your traditional like hardcore skater, and like, they're all about spray painting stuff and vandalizing. They hate me. They think I'm like crazy. Yeah. But then you have like your longboarder, the electric rider. They love it. So it's like I had to deal with all kinds of, and I was always on Facebook and social media. Yeah, I had the worst comments ever. I'm over it. People can say whatever
it's
they
tough.
want.
Yeah, I mean, it is tough.
Yeah, I'm over it for sure.
I think what I read into that whole thing, Chris, about overexposure is that I do think like you have the difference between you and some of these other like channels, if we're just talking about channels for a second, the difference is you have a real world experience and the ability to actually produce something outside of the metaverse, which I think is cool. Some people only have that, you know what I mean? They can't get out of, and this is what I'm talking about a little bit, is that you have to be able to exist in both realms, right? I think that's the trick.
What Leslie Kean said is it's not, you can't look at them separately.
I know, but right. But this body, I can't make this body go into those other realms. I don't think. I think this body is trapped here. I think I have to leave.
Telescope.
Well, I think I think
Leslie might say otherwise, right? Because the guy Walter's walking into our dimension. Did you look into Leslie's like seances?
I haven't. No, I didn't even know.
But I think those beings are more advanced. They come from a different physical reality than we do. You see, so I think that part of the secrecy in my mind may be that we are trapped in these bodies, and that spirituality is our only relief, from them. So
I've heard that a couple times. Yeah.
But I don't know. There's a reason for the secrecy, and once we put our finger on it, then maybe it'll blow.
I think it's just humans screwing it up.
You think?
If I had to guess. thinking they know what's right, but they don't realize they're just completely biased, like age-old history.
Well, it's always been a biased opinion, right? So like people always see what they expect to see. Like the type of being that they're always used to seeing or thinking about is the one that they end up seeing and experiencing. It's all like, I personally think it's all from within, but it is a real thing that manifests in our physical reality. I mean, it's the quantum nature of the phenomenon.
Cool.
Right? Like, that's where I'm at this point. But I can always be persuaded. You know, I'm not like fixed in stone, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, I like having theories and then testing them. You know, if you have a theory that we can never possibly test, it's not interesting to me.
Yeah, I think the one test in quotes could be like dealing with Skinwalker, right? Because when you go to Skinwalker Ranch, the type of experience you have is based off of the type of person you are. I mean, it's so vague, but that's the direction of testing, maybe, to test that.
Yeah. She talked about the orbs are dangerous, though. That's also a thing. You know, these human effects, that's why it's also interesting. Maybe are you putting yourself at danger?
Yep.
Yeah, that was the experiment I wanted to do, right? I wanted to take 20 people and blindfold them and take them there, you know, you're like some doctoral students or something, you know, don't tell them what they're doing. They're, you know, doing research for their thesis or whatever, you know, don't tell them where they're going. Just take them and put them there. What would happen? What would happen to them? I mean, they've got. Have you seen the hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment, that monitoring equipment? You know, what's going on there right now? What's happening there right now?
I don't. It's coming out, right? But UAPX will hopefully tell us something. I don't know.
I don't know. But I'm saying maybe what you're saying is true, Alexei. That you have to. I don't know. I go back and forth, and that's why I keep thinking it's a balance, you know, because.
Well, I mean, we definitely live in a physical world too, where there could just be like nuts and bolts beings from other planets, right? I mean, I don't see why that's not enough. That's clearly an option, right? That shouldn't be taken off the table at all.
I think that may be Bob Lazar's experience. You know, maybe, you know, some people have that experience of physical beings, and other people are having experience, and maybe that's the confusion in this whole thing. You know,
well, that's why I'm saying if you're trying to get from one star to the other, you have to use the faster than light technologies. And from my understanding, you're now doing the quantum you're doing quantum teleportation, and you're traveling through a denser experience. And so basically, they would be manifesting themselves from those realms, but starting from other stars. And depending on whether or not they want to go back home or not, is how they would be getting here. If they wanted to stay here, they'd probably use like a nuts and bolts ship and stay here. But if they wanted to just kind of like teleport over and teleport back, it would be a interdimensional type of.
But you could have other less advanced beings that say, "Dang, all we can do right now is warp space time. We have to go. That's how we have to take a physical ship and warp space time around our ship and get it there." And then, dang, we crash because, hey, there's gravity there. You know?
I think I also get the impression a lot of it's just observational. You know, I kind of get this idea that if you imagine you're looking into Google Maps and you're zooming down, you know, if they were in that little Google Map, you know, metaverse, and they look up, would they see, you know, what would they see? You know, maybe they see some UAP ship, or maybe they have like a laboratory. You know, there's ships, right? It's like a saucer. I kind of imagine, what if it's actually like the top of a big machine, and all we're seeing is the manifestation of the observation. That's why there's no sound. That's why there's no physical, it's just light. So that's like a transfer of just information or something. I don't know.
That's why I was saying we could make that if we had the two sphere system, like a sphere here, a sphere here, and they're discharging. One's discharging here, but we literally get inside of the sphere. And then it's discharging out.
Are they two? Is it one inside of the other, or is it one? Are they separate? I thought it was one inside the other. That
the
was
original thought was basically like a barbell, like when you know, like a weight you would lift, dumbbells. Yeah. But then after by the time I finished the email, I was like, but we just put a sphere inside a sphere, you know.
Yeah, that's what I imagine. And
exactly
inside of a sphere.
What's the sphere made of?
You know, that was his effect. Is you have the electromagnetic field spinning this way, and then you have another one and another sphere spinning the other way. Somehow it makes some weird effects. If you're inside of that, maybe it would cause these things.
That's what I was. Yeah, so you get inside of it, and basically you see out, different. Yeah.
Cool. All right. I gotta go, guys. Sorry, we're leaving
Hey,
tomorrow.
thanks, Chris, for jumping in because
Yeah.
I always like talking to you.
It was great talking to you. I'll see you next week, Alexei.
Yeah,
Good.
out in Disney. That should be fun.
Next time you come to the States, Chris, you got to come to Tennessee.
All right, man.
Look up on Lookout Mountain and see the birdhouses. The big, you got to see Rock City. I guess you don't know that part about Chattanooga, the historical part, the Civil War history and all that kind of stuff.
I drove,
Chickamauga Battlefield.
Have you ever seen it?
Huh?
Ask again. Sorry, to me, Alexei.
Yeah. You surfboard, but you ever electric skateboard?
No, a regular skateboard just in the morning with my son.
I might have to bring one of my electric boards over so you can try it out.
100%, man. Yeah, be cool.
That might be fun.
Well, thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for talking. I love chatting with you guys as always, and
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I enjoy it. All right.
See ya.
Leslie Kean interview's out Friday. Man, it's a good one. It is a good one.
I
got to make a thumbnail still, so get to work.
I'm excited about that.
Cool.
Send her an email and ask her to come see me, and then we can all get together and gang up on her again. And get her to answer some of these vague, these esoteric things we come up with.
Yeah, I'll picture. I know. Esoteric. It is.
You're like, sure, Tony, sure.
Sure.
All right, well, thanks, guys.
I got your names in both. So, all right, guys. See you, man.
Yeah, that's cool.
Take care.
I'll see you. See you guys.
Yeah, have a good one.
See you. Thanks, Alexei. Thanks for jumping in.
Yes, sir. I'll see you later. Have a good one.
Thanks, you too. See you. All right. Well, that was awesome. That was awesome. I love Chris and Alexei. They are awesome dudes. And I love to see, I knew Chris's channel was going to be really big. And he's just a great guy. Alexei, he's just, the brain power of those two guys is amazing. I like just hanging out and listening to them. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next episode of PiFi, People I Find Interesting.